Hello and welcome to another episode with Grade 6. Today we will be looking at a brave boy writing composition. Now let's try to remember that any piece of writing should have a beginning, a middle and an end. And on our beginning we need to have our topic sentence where we give the main topic of our paragraph, followed by the supporting details and information in the middle, and finally in the end we have the conclusion. Now in today's episode we'll be focusing on expository writing. Now what is expository writing? It is a writing that explains, brightens and exposes the reader with information about a topic. So it is a piece of writing that gives information and facts to the reader. It's not like a narrative where you make up things and you make up stories and you use imagination. It is something based on fact, or it is simply just giving information. Where do you usually find expository writing? You usually find it in newspaper articles. So when you look at a newspaper article, it is expository writing. It is stating facts, or it is stating information, or it's stating an event that happened in the world or in Kuwait or in anywhere in the world. So this is expository writing. So newspapers mostly use it in order to write their articles and their reports. Now when we look at a newspaper article, we need to look at it carefully. It has a headline, it has a byline where it gives the writer's name and where it was written. It has a lead paragraph, which is like an introduction, and it has explanation on the event or the topic, and finally additional information where you have, for example, citations or places where you can find more information. So the article usually answers these questions. It answers who, what, where, when, and why. Who was in the event, or who did it happen to? What happened in the article or in the event? Where did that event happen? Did it happen in Kuwait? Did it happen in the US? Did it happen in the house? Did it happen at the beach? Where did it happen? And when? Was it in the morning? Was it in the afternoon? Was it at night? The date of it, the year, okay, and why it happened, okay? So let's look at an example together, okay? Brave boy saves life. Here we have the headline. Last Saturday, 15-year-old Walid went to the beach. While he was walking along the beach, he suddenly heard a scream. He saw a young boy, Marwan, who was in the sea, shouting for help and waving his arm. Walid ran into the water and started swimming towards him. While he was swimming, he saw Marwan go under the water. Walid swam faster and faster. Finally, he reached him. Walid put his hand under Marwan's chin and swam back to the shore. Some men helped Walid and Marwan out of the water. Walid said, "When I saw him, I knew he was in trouble. I am good at swimming, so I went to help him. An ambulance took Marwan to the hospital. He went home the next day." So here, if we look at the article, we say when it happened, last Saturday. Who did it happen to, or who it was in the event? Who was in the story? Walid and Marwan. Now, what happened? Here, Walid went to help, or ran into the water to help Marwan, who was in the sea. Where did it happen? In the sea. Okay, so here we have an idea of who and where and when. Now why? They didn't tell us why, okay? But it's fine. Now, let's try to write expository writing. Now, in order to have a really good expository writing, we need to use sequence words to make it more coherent, to make it more readable and attractive for the reader. Now, we remember that we have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. In the introduction, we introduce the topic. In the body, we need to connect our ideas, and in the conclusion, we conclude. So in the introduction, we can use to begin with, or the first reason, in the first place, firstly. So these are sequence words that help begin or introduce the topic. In order to connect our ideas, we can use additionally, because we are adding more information. Another reason why this happened, or another reason why this person was going to help Marwan, another reason. Next, sequence, next, after that. Secondly, thirdly, finally, we use the concluding sentences. And in order to conclude, we use at the end, because it happened at the end. Finally, it's at the end of the story. To wrap up, okay. In conclusion, lastly, all right? These are all things that help end our article, or we can use the final reason. Now, let's try to follow the writing process. In order to know the writing process, we need to remember the 3 steps. What are the 3 steps? Can you remember? Yes, you do. At the beginning, you need to brainstorm. Write all the ideas that come up related to the topic. The second step, where you have the drafting process. Use all the information you use in brainstorming in order to write your ideas in complete sentences. And you add transition words or sequence words to make it more coherent. Well done. And the third step is where you revise and you edit. Revising using the CUP strategy, capitalize, use correct grammar, punctuate, and spelling. And finally, you revise it and then you edit it and you have the final thing and you publish it, or you give it to your teacher or your sister or someone to read it. So let's start with the brainstorming. But in order to brainstorm, we need to know what we are going to write about. Am I correct? So plan and write a newspaper article about a fireman who saved a girl in not less than 6 sentences with the help of the following guide words. Someone, exhausted, rush, leave, and safety. So try to pause the video in order to have an idea on what you are going to write. You can look at the pictures in order to help you think and have more ideas. Now we are back. So let's start with the first step, which is brainstorming. Okay? First of all, my topic is a fireman saved a girl. So here, this is my topic. What is my introduction? A brave fireman goes into a burning house. So this is the first thing that happened, my topic sentence. Well done. Now, what is going to be included in my body? 7 firemen went into the fire. The fire started in the kitchen. That's where it happened. What happened? How did it happen? The towel fell on the stove. Okay, the girl was frightened. Okay, so here we have the person in the story, who is in the story, or who is in the article or the event. Okay, and finally I have my conclusion, which is a fireman gets an award from the chief. Okay, so here I have an idea on what I'm going to be writing about. Now it's time for you to use those ideas in order to write a draft. So pause the video and try to write on your own a paragraph using those ideas. And now it's time to write. So we will start with the drafting process. Last night, a brave fireman rushed in, save a girl from a burning house. When someone left the kitchen towel on the stove, the fire started. While the mother went call for help, the girl hid. The girl was so frightened and scared as she stayed under the kitchen table. 7 firemen were looking for her when they heard her exhausted cry and cough. The girl was taken immediately to the hospital in an ambulance. The fireman carried the girl out, got a medal from the fire chief. So here, it's time for you to pause again the video in order to guess what are the mistakes in your paragraph. Now remember that we have spelling mistakes, we have grammar mistakes, we have transition words, to be added. So try to think what can you add and what can you remove from the paragraph. So let's look at it together. Last night, a brave fireman rushed to save a girl from a burning house. Okay? Now, here, if you notice, rushed, left, exhausted, and medal are all words that we have mentioned in the question. So here, I have used them in my paragraph. So this is one idea, to use the words provided for your help. Okay? Try to use them. So here, let's use the cup strategy together in order to check our writing. Here we need to remember C, that stands for capitalize, so capitalize your letters. U, to use the correct grammar. P, to punctuate, use capital letters, full stops, commas, and finally S for your spelling. Okay, so did you forget to use your capital letters, full stops, and grammar? No, you didn't. So let's work together in order to do it. And remember to have an introductory sentence, to have supporting sentences, and to have a concluding sentence. So let's look at this together now. Last night, a brave man rushed to save a girl from a burning house when someone left the kitchen towel on the stove. The fire started. While the mother went to call for help, the girl hid. She was so frightened and scared as she stayed under the kitchen table. 7 firemen were looking for her when they heard her exhausted cry and cough. The girl was taken immediately to the hospital in an ambulance. The fireman who carried the girl out got a medal from the fire chief. So it's time for you now to look at the text and try to guess what are the mistakes or what can you add to that paragraph. Okay, so are you ready? Pause the video and try to guess what can you do with the paragraph. Remember, this is the third step where you revise to edit. And we are back. So here we have last night. Following last night, which is a transition word or a sequence word, we need to have a comma. So we need to add a comma here. And then we have a second mistake. Went call is not correct grammar. We need to use was calling because following while, all right, following while we need to use the present continuous. So while, present continuous, comma, and then we have the past simple. Okay, so when someone left the kitchen towel on the stove, the fire started. While the mother was calling for help, the girl hid. Okay, and if you notice, the girl hid, she was so frightened. Here, she, we have to capitalize it and we end our sentence. So the girl hid, full stop, she, capital, was so frightened and scared as she stayed under the kitchen table. 7 firemen were looking for her when they heard her exhausted cry and cough. Here, exhausted is a spelling mistake. So here we need to correct our spelling into exhausted. And finally here we have to add a transition word. Remember, when we want to end our paragraph and we want it to be more coherent, we need to add a transition word or a sequence word. Here we can use at the end, comma, the fireman who carried the girl out got a medal from the fire chief. So now it's time to finally check our paragraph for the rubrics. Okay, we look at the planning. Did I plan correctly? Do I have all the information I need in my plan? Did I add more ideas? And then I look at the exposition of my ideas and coherence. Do my sentences make sense? Do my sentences have all the same idea? Do they talk about the same main idea or are they talking about something else? Remember here we are talking about a fire that started and the girl was hiding and she needed help and they helped her. So it's not wise to add that she went to the park in the middle of the paragraph. No, I need to have the same ideas. Okay. And the number of sentences. Do I have 6 sentences or do I have less? I have 6, I am fine. If I have more, it's okay. But if I have less, you need to go back and you need to write more sentences. And remember that you need to have your topic sentence at the beginning and your ending, your conclusion sentence. Then we have to look at our spelling. Do I have the correct spelling in my paragraph or not? I need to go back and I need to check. And then I look at my handwriting. Is my handwriting clear for the reader? Or is it a bit messy? If it's a bit messy, it's wise to cross it out and write it again very nicely and very neatly. And remember, you have to look at your punctuation. Your capital letter is at the beginning. Is it there? Is your full stop there? Yes. After the transition word or the sequence word, do you have your comma? After while, do you have the present continuous? And then you have a comma and then the past simple. Remember that. And then finally, you look at the format of your paragraph. Did you indent? Does it make sense? Do you have a headline? Because we are writing a newspaper article. So you need a headline, you need the byline, and then you need your lead paragraph, and then the explanation of the topic. And is it clear? So let's look at it together. Last night, a brave fireman rushed to save a girl from a burning house. Here, I have my topic sentence. When someone left a kitchen towel on the stove, the fire started. While the mother was calling for help, the girl hid. The girl was so frightened and scared, so she stayed under the kitchen table. 7 firemen were looking for her when they heard her exhausted cry and cough. The girl was taken immediately to the hospital in an ambulance. So here I have all the details and all the supporting details for my topic sentence. And finally, at the end, the fireman who carried the girl out got a medal from the fire chief. So all the ideas, all the sentences are very well done. And if you see, it's something that is grabbing the attention of the reader. It's making the reader want to read more and want to know after that what happened. After the fireman carried the girl out and he got the medal, what happened next? Is the girl okay? So it is something that the reader would like to read more about and would like to search more about. So if you look at it, we have our headline, we have our byline, so then we have the sentences, and finally we have the author's written. So in today's episode, we learned how to write an expository writing, and we learned how to write a coherent paragraph using coherent words and phrases. And thank you for watching.